What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Lucid, aka Mike, here to do my in-depth week 2 review. Um, wow. Uh, let's just say that Christmas came a little early for college football fans this week. A slate that had maybe a handful of games that people were like, oh man, that one should be pretty interesting. And then a whole lot of nothing burgers essentially programmed that turned into something burgers pretty quickly. Very glad that we got a little bit of excitement this early in the season. I think it's kind of early to assume too much for some of these teams that had some close scares. I think it's too much to assume for some of these teams that have been having early dominance. It's only week 2 at the end of the day. That said, obviously, I have some opinions on some things that transpired, and I'm here to talk about them, and hopefully you're here to listen. So, yeah, this is got to be the first game that we talk about, right? And that is the number 3 Texas Longhorns going into Ann Arbor to play the no longer 10th ranked Michigan Wolverines. And it was an absolute splattering in the big house. There's no other way to really put it here. I'm going to go ahead and do something new for the channel. While we're discussing these games, I'm going to be able to pull up some stats so that way we can actually talk about some things that happen. But before I do that, can I just get a couple things off my chest? Number one, okay, if you are a Michigan fan, I understand being frustrated. I understand probably being a little bit defensive. You guys have lost an immense amount of talent from last season's roster that won a national championship. And you think that justifies yesterday's result. And while technically it does, I'm going to be the first to tell you that the sentiment around the Michigan fan base that I largely interacted with in the offseason was that something like this was, I don't want to say unthinkable. I don't know that's the word necessarily, but if they thought that there was a chance they could lose this game, I do not think that they thought that yesterday's result was going to be the way that it played out. But it did. And so let's just go ahead and take a look at it. All right. There's no other way to get around it. We're looking up box score right now. You know what? Let's switch over to team stats. So in terms of overall first downs, right, both teams highly comparable. But the real story here is that this Michigan offense that prided itself on having an offensive line room that was deep enough to replace injuries to guys like Zach Zinter and still be dominant in the run game. 80 yards. 80 yards, 3.5 yards per attempt. It's only one less than what Texas did, but also understand this. Texas put up way more yards passing early in the game because that 204, a lot of it came later in the game when Davis Warren was still slinging around. And the simple fact of the matter is, like, how do I put this? These numbers have got to be flip-flopped. Total offense is flipped here. Yeah. Yep. I just noticed that. Might have to get a new stats and info department for these videos moving forward because, you know what? Hang on. Let's go ahead and see if this is going to be an issue for other games or if this is just a anomaly, so to speak. Stand by. We're all growing together. If the autoplay feature on these videos could stop, that'd be fantastic. All right. Yeah, so it looks like it's just going to be permanently flipped. That's unfortunate. All right, we're going to roll with it for this video. I will, in the future, hunt down a slightly more dependable stats and info tracking mechanism. Damn, that's a little upsetting. Kind of derailed my talking point there. Okay, going back to what we had. Okay, so 284 yards total offense from Michigan, 389 for Texas. Now, like I was saying, a majority of those passing yards came later in the game when Texas's defense was really just trying to play contain, right? Like they weren't actually trying to be as extremely aggressive as they were earlier in the contest. They were just kind of like, hey, let's just not sacrifice anything big and stupid, and maintain our depth by not getting anybody hurt, right? And so Michigan puts up a measly 204 yards passing. And the thing is that if somebody wants to look at that and be like, Texas only did 246, be like, yeah, against a Texas secondary that is supposed to have the best corner in college football in it. And it turns out the answer to having the best corner in college football is you just throw at anybody not named Will Johnson if you're Texas, and you end up doing pretty good. 10.2 yards per completion and 0 interceptions. Not bad. Not bad at all, might I say. I think the real story of this game was this quarterback debacle that's taking place for Michigan. At least this is my interpretation of Michigan's massive fault here, and that is that their offense could not generate any form of consistency whatsoever. I said I was going to save this for the end when I was kind of making my note sheet, but this Alex Orji experiment has to end. It's done. Like it has run its course. It's no longer interesting or intriguing or something that I think anybody is remotely concerned with in Ann Arbor anymore. Okay. Here's what I saw. You brought him in third down situations, and Texas's defense, along with everybody else in America, knew what you were going to do. They did not respect the notion that the ball might be traveling through the air if, I don't know, you had given them the ability to check out of a read or something like that. But I just, at no point when he came into the game was I sitting here thinking like, man, they could really do something with this. It was like, oh, Orji's coming in. They're going to try and motion a receiver through the backfield to draw a linebacker, create a zone blocking scheme, hopefully get some good matchups, and Orji's either going to hand it off if the linebacker doesn't bite, or he's just going to keep the ball and run it himself. I didn't. If I saw that, Texas saw it. Okay. So I don't know what the thought process here. If you're Michigan, the stat line shows you, okay, there is promise in this passing game if you dedicate time, energy, love, affection to it. All right. What I did not just say is that Davis Warren and the Michigan passing attack is going to evolve by the end of the season to be some elite thing. All right. It's not going to be 2023 Washington when it's all said and done. Okay. I still have no idea who your receivers are that are going to emerge. Okay. Yes, I understand Samaj Morgan, right? Like there's names. Okay. I'm talking about like dudes, like actual difference makers that are going to step up and be viable at that skill position to make it matter. Okay. What I'm telling you to do is to grow your garden. Okay. Take care of it. Protect it like a delicate little flower, all right? Because what is Davis Warren suffering from right now? This is a junior that is taking his first career starts with an offensive scheme that is constantly in flux because you have a 2-quarterback system, and the age-old adage, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none, okay? The experiment needs to die. I understand what your expectations probably were in the offseason, that Alex Orji was going to be the guy, he was going to progress enough, and you were going to be able to run something similar to what you ran last season. You can't. It's not the case. It's done. It's gone. I have zero faith in it. The more that I see him out in that field, the more that I think that you are not taking this seriously. And that's just my 2 cents. So going to Texas, let's talk about some things that I was really impressed with, and I think some things that like I'm still concerned with for this team. And you might be hearing that and being like, wait. They absolutely brutalized the number 10 team in the country at home in a big road game. What are we concerned about again exactly? Well, let's get there. All right. I'm concerned that this test wasn't as difficult as the price of admission led you to believe. And let me explain. Yes, Michigan's defense is still really good. Okay. It gave up 31 points, sure, but yep, there it is. It gave up 31 points, sure, but is this really the offense? Sorry. Is this really the type of offense coming from Michigan that I feel comfortable saying that my secondary has improved? I don't. When you were that inconsistent in the passing game, okay, it was extremely conservative. And yes, you threw 3 less attempts than Texas did, but Texas was also much more balanced in their play calling. And also had a much more successful running game than you. But at the end of the day, too, like if you looked at the product on the field, these numbers do not tell the full story. It's like there were things to be had there that execution errors were causing you to fail. Procedural errors were causing you to fail, right? Just flat out missing wide open receivers was causing you to fail. So what I'm getting at is if I'm Texas, if I'm Steve Sarkisian, do I walk away from this game hanging my head low? No, absolutely not. You've accomplished something great and you should be absolutely proud of what you've done. But what I'm saying is that for me to truly say that Texas has met my expectations for somebody that is definitively in the running to win the national championship, I think a lot of people are going to overreact to that, but I think Michigan's not as good as we expected them to be. I don't think that Michigan is the team that you want to be drawing your line in the sand and saying, like, that's the test. That's the one. No. I will say this. The team that is going to be that for Texas, and they are on their schedule, is Georgia. Okay? Now, let's see here. I don't want to presume too much, but I do believe that Georgia and Texas play in like week 6 or 7 or something like that. Let us see. It's basically the point is that like we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there eventually. We really just not get to. Oh, here we go. They have a bye week, which means it's probably week 7. No, that's the Oklahoma game. Is it week 5 by chance? Nope. 8. There it is. Week 8. So week 8. We got some time. I think I don't really want to dwell too much on this game. I think I talked about it enough in the instant reaction video last night. I think Michigan. Oh, I did want to get one thing off my chest. I do want to apologize to Texas fans. I completely forgot that you guys took Andrew Makuba Sr. In the transfer portal from Clemson. Had himself a really good game. But again, this is a secondary that I don't think has been tested the way that they need to in order for me to comfortably say that they could mitigate or just flat out prevent what happened to this team in the Sugar Bowl last year against Washington. So great things. I liked what I saw. I can't say that I love it because, again, given what we saw from Michigan's offense, we pretty much got what we should have gotten. This should have happened. I don't want to say it was necessarily an expected win, but it's impressive, but it's not as impressive as it could have been if Michigan was in better form, essentially. So we'll just kind of cover the top 25, top to bottom here real quick. I wanted to cover the big game, obviously, that was on the slate, and then we'll just kind of go. Georgia absolutely demolishes Tennessee Tech. They essentially said that it was going to be more like a glorified scrimmage. I'm not really going to give too much airtime to that. Ohio State, yes, it's Western Michigan, but like Georgia, they look different. They really look different. I don't know why I'm yawning so much. This is ridiculous. They looked like assassins coming out there. I mean, I want to say that they put up some truly ridiculous yards. Yeah, 683 total offense, and they held Western Michigan to 99. I'm not even going to put that up on the screen. That's just be mean-spirited for me to continue to magnify. Bama, the final score of this game is not going to tell the full story because USF was in this game far longer than they should have been, to put it simply. Okay, Alabama eventually pulls away to the tune of 42-16 being the final score. And I want to say the point spread was an over-under point total of 30 and a half, maybe 31, juiced to the under. So we almost got there, but it wasn't looking that way for a while. I mean, I had this game on because I was like, I joked about this during my preview video, and I didn't even really try to keep the joke alive too long. I was just like, there's no way USF repeats the debacle that happened last year in Tampa. They almost did there for a little bit. I don't know what to attribute that to. Here we go again. This is stupid. This is absolutely stupid. I'm gonna take a drink real quick. Am I boring myself? Is that what's going on here? Yeah, we almost did. Let's actually see here. I want to refresh my own memory. Box score. Yes, scoring. Here we go. Yeah, this was a 13-14 game going into the fourth quarter, and then Alabama just decided we're taking this seriously now and took off with it. Very much so mirroring another Power 4 ranked team, this time from the Big Ten. Where are you at? There you are. Talked about you last night. Let's bring this one up. I said it last night during the instant reaction video, and I'm going to say it again. But Penn State, you knew you had a game yesterday, right? That didn't surprise anybody? Like, were you shocked when you woke up and coach was banging on your dorm room door like, hey, let's go? You're like, wait, what the? We have to play. Who are we playing? Bowling Green? Ah, we got this. Yeah, you got it eventually. But there's a whole lot of orange moving up and down that field with a whole lot of ease that me, myself, and I wasn't expecting. I can tell you that right now. But this is a team that last week we were like, Drew Aller's winning the Heisman, right? And then what did we end up getting? We ended up getting 234 rushing yards, which is phenomenal because, yeah, hey, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, they're really good. And if I remember correctly, Drew Aller actually moved the ball a little bit with his feet. Yeah. So 7 yards, 7 attempts. But Nick Singleton, 13 for 119, and then freaking Katron Allen, 14 for 101. That's a pretty good recipe for success. Okay. I gotta go put my kids to bed. I'll finish this talking point here for this game, and then through the power of editing, we'll be able to come back and make it look like I was never gone. So anyway, what was I gonna say? Oh, yeah. So one thing that I noticed in this game that was pretty concerning if I'm a Penn State fan is that there was a true matchup disparity with your linebackers guarding Fannin. So this guy here at the top, this little stat line right here, Harold Fannin Jr., 11 receptions for 137 and a touchdown. That's a tight end. He's not a receiver. Okay. So he is a matchup nightmare, apparently, for a team that was supposed to have a pretty phenomenal defense going into this season that ended up giving up 375 yards of total offense. That flip-flop's gotta go. That's gonna bug me. But I want to be able to chalk this one up to just like Penn State, kind of overlook their opponent, because if I'm not mistaken, they have, let's see, I am not in the right spot. Good week 3. Oh, they have a bye. Huh. So they were looking forward to the bye week. Interesting. All I'll say is this is I had that game on, and for good reason, because it was just like, is this really about to happen? Like, we had so many games happen in the 11 a.m. slate that were almost upsets that you almost forgot about them because of how much shit ended up happening in the 3:30 and then primetime slots. So I want to say that this game of all ended up being a bit of an anomaly. I think that this overall stat line was kind of like a Penn State showing up and being like, this is what we can do offensively. Like, we're still really good here. But to surrender that many points to Bowling Green, like, when for defense, all you really have to do is be assignment sound and just more athletic than your opponents, to give up that many points to a team from the MAC, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. Speaking of the MAC, they logged their first victory over a top 5 opponent this week.
Daddy, it's time to take a nap.
It's time for bed.
It's time for bed.
Well, hey, you heard the guy. When I come back from putting him and his brother to bed, we're going to be talking about the Northern Illinois Huskies beating the number 5 Fighting Irish of Notre Dame at home in South Bend. I almost can't believe it. Y'all take it easy. All right. So we're back. Night time ended up going a little brutal, unfortunately. And then I had to check something for work for tomorrow real quick, and I'm here. So it's getting right back into it. Okay, so we finished talking about Penn State and their not so great showing against Bowling Green before ultimately coming away with the victory. But as promised before the break, we are going to be discussing Northern Illinois' massive upset, biggest upset in the history of the Mid-American Conference, as they go in to South Bend and bring down the number 5 Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Where do I begin? So I'll say this. As a Washington Husky fan, I know that my own team's fan base kind of has some deep-rooted dislike for Notre Dame. It's something that kind of precedes my generation of fandom. Yes, I was alive during that time, but I wasn't conscious enough or aware enough to really give a shit. So I just want to preface with that before I kind of say what I'm about to say, because I feel like some Notre Dame fans might, see the logo and the flag or my shirt and like, oh, well, of course you think that way, right? Because, you're a Washington fan. No, I feel this way literally just as an honest just fan of college football. Your team's not great. All right. I hate to admit it. to you. I understand that your defense is elite, but they also had 16 points scored on them by Northern Illinois. While teams like Ohio State are bricking Western Michigan, while Eastern Michigan isn't scoring a single touchdown against Washington, who's supposed to be worse off. My point being is that there are worse teams than your ranking out there doing better jobs of beating teams like Northern Illinois. So let's discuss why you lost. You lost because your offense is fraudulent, okay? You lost because you lost a lot of talent or I don't know, talent, but you lost a lot of experience on the offensive line. You bring in a signal caller like Riley Leonard, who has yet to establish himself as a passer in Division I FBS against the type of competition that you're going to have to face in order to prove that you're a team of the caliber that your ranking suggests you are, okay? And also your receivers, though they showed some promise in College Station against the Aggies, they still weren't putting up great numbers, nor was the passing game in total. So what did we see? We saw a team that was very much so still struggling, if not worse, in the departments that it was struggling with last year. Okay? It was just sloppy. It was sloppy. And then Marcus Freeman in the post-game press conference saying, we've been here before, referring to the loss to Marshall in his first year as head coach. That's the problem, sir. The problem is that we've been here before with you at the helm of this ship. This isn't supposed to be happening anymore. This is supposed to be so far in our rear view that we laugh about the last time that this happened. The problem is that the last time this happened was yesterday. Okay? You've had a couple years. You've had time to correct the flaws in the system that led to that loss to Marshall in year one. That while still somewhat shocking, most people looked at it as like, okay, he still has time to get it under control. And by all accounts, people were like, oh, he's doing that. They've gotten steadily better. And then we have this. In the era of NIL and the portal and, I don't know, literally having Notre Dame in your title, this is inexcusable. It's inexcusable. You have the ability to secure way better talent than you have. And if you're a good coaching staff, we should be getting better results from the players you currently possess. Because there's one of two things. Either you're a good developer of talent or you're not. Or you're a good acquirer of talent, or you're not. Which is it? Yeah, no, this one was just kind of like a lull moment when I saw it. I was just like, of course. I found myself saying, what Marcus Freeman said. Been here before. Good old Notre Dame, just finding ways to prove once again that they don't deserve to be competing for the national championship. And the fact that they literally could win out the rest of their schedule and earn a spot in the college football playoff is a huge part of the reason why the playoff is stupid. This is ridiculous. Ole Miss flatlines Middle Tennessee. They are pouring it on. They're trying to win Jackson Dart the Heisman, reportedly. Best of luck to them. Now we get to a team that I can be mean about, not just because they're my rival, but because what the actual fuck is going on in Eugene. Okay. Now, before anybody tries to come at me and talk good about Boise, I'm going to do it first. Boise State's a good football team. Okay. Boise State is going to win games this year. Ashton Jeanty at running back could be in New York if we want to talk about overreaction comments from week 2. And if you don't know, being in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony is what I'm referring to. That said, this is Oregon. This is the team that going into this season was lauding itself as never having more talent than it does right now, never being better positioned to succeed than it is right now. Never has there been a team moving conferences and showing up in year 1 and being poised to win it. And this year we might have 2, is what we were told with Texas and Oregon. We have one team that looks really good, but I still have questions about whether or not the Michigan game was a true enough test to sign off and give my blessing. And then we have these chuckleheads over here failing to cover against an FCS team and going 37-34 against Boise State at home with checks notes. Hang on. Because recruiting rankings always get thrown in my face as justification for giving benefit of the doubt and this, that, and the other. Oh, you have the 6th highest ranked fucking team in terms of team talent composite. Boise State. Oh, by the way. Hang on, how do I do this? You can see. Oh, I made it through the top 50 and I still didn't see them. Let's go. That way you know I'm still scrolling. There we go. 77. I'm not hearing it. I'm not hearing it. It's... You're 6th. They're 77th. Their best players should be comparable to like your backups. But here we are. Because apparently getting the talent is way more important than developing it. Let's just pull up stats real quick. Why not? So Ashton Jeanty rattles off 192 yards on 25 carries for 3 touchdowns. They log a grand total of 221 on the ground. Okay. Passing game, not great. Madsen was 17 of 40 for 148 and a tutty. The receivers weren't really doing too much craziness. But you still gave up 369 yards to a defense that I'm told was supposed to be improved in the trenches to offset the lack of physicality they possessed while playing Washington twice last year. I'm told that their elite group of receivers might be the best receiving room in college football. And I also heard repeatedly through the offseason that the composition of Dylan Gabriel under center with that receiving room might be the most complementary tandem in college football. And what did it do exactly? Oh, 243 for 2. 243 for 2. Now he's efficient as ever. You want to know who else was efficient? Bo Nix. Bo Nix is really efficient. You want to know what Bo Nix is really good at doing? Winning football games. You want to know what Bo Nix also did pretty well that people didn't give him enough credit for? Bo Nix was able to push the ball down the field. Okay. Longest completion for this one is 67 yards. So, okay, we got some improvement here. We got some improvement. It's just, oh my God. Where is it at? Average per pass up to 13.5 from last week. So significant improvement there. All right. It's just why? If it's not one thing, it's another. And we're going to hear excuse after excuse being made. You want to know something? And yes, this is a homer take. Okay. And I'm not even going to try and hide it. But 243 for 2. All right. 18 of 21. He was top 5 in Heisman odds coming into this season. Where is it at? This is another Division I Group of 5 team. Is it as good as Boise State? Not my place to say, because if I pull up that team talent composite fucking thingamajig again, I'm pretty sure it would have some things. 261 for 4, 21 to 26. But oh, look, there's another 55 yards left on the table that could have gone up here. The difference is that one team had its backup in before the third quarter was over, and the other one was taken to the wire by a team that they outranked by 71 spots in team talent composite. Meanwhile, stand by. Just because I'm going to be beating this drum all fucking year. All right. So we go to team talent composite here. Washington's at 35. Boom. Right there. You see it. Hi. Nice to meet you. We'll keep that parked right there so we can still see the numbers. All right. So we already remember where Boise was hanging out down here at 77. How much further do we need to go for Eastern Michigan, I wonder? 109. 109. So, grabs calculator. That's 74 spots in difference as opposed to the 71 spots. So you can say, oh, the gap was greater by 3 spots in team talent composite for Oregon, or rather for Washington, than it was Oregon. Does anybody not understand what I'm trying to say here? That team should not, given everything that I'm told matters in this sport, given everything that gets thrown at my face when I have to sit here and question in the offseason, why are we talking about them this way? What have any of these teams done? Like, this isn't just an Oregon thing, okay? What have any of these teams done to justify or deserve any of the offseason hype that they receive? Because the last time I checked, the Saturdays in the fall are where this shit gets found out, okay? And here's the thing. Content needs to be driven by something, all right? And it really doesn't make sense to eliminate any talking point that involves theorizing what a team might be. I just wish that things like this didn't exist, honestly, because then it would be a lot easier for me to sit and consume that information, because it's like, man, that guy really feels high on Oregon. Okay, and then he's got all these numbers and stuff to throw back at me, because then guess what? You probably wish that these things didn't exist either, because then we aren't having this conversation in week 2 after you've played Idaho and Boise State and you have looked like hot dog shit compared to the expectations set forth by your recruiting rankings, your team talent composite, all of it. I'm so over this shit. I'm so over every year having to be told reason after reason as to why X team, X program is where it's at. Florida's 12th, and they might not even make a fucking bowl game this year. Okay? And people are going to sit here and be like, but they might still be a pretty good team. They just play a tough schedule. Florida is not going to make a bowl game this year. I don't care what DJ Lagway did against Samford. All right? Someone's going to clip that eventually, guaranteed. I'm getting worked up. I'm getting worked up over this because this is just a constantly recurring theme in college football where people get to sit here and like throw it back at you and be like, they're not overrated. You don't even know what they're properly rated as and stuff like that. And that is true. Okay. You know who I'm talking about. If you know, you know. Okay. And I am an avid consumer of that person's content, huge fan. I'm not intending to disown or discredit anything that individual says. It's just that there is a fervent desire to step up to the plate in defense of teams like a Notre Dame, like an Oregon, that I have to spend every offseason hearing glowing, adoring remarks about them, only for them to year in and year out just stumble. Because here's the thing. You may not be saying that they're going to win the national championship. You're saying they can, which via technicality is true. Could they? Sure. My grandma could live to be 197 years old. She could. It's probably not going to happen. All right? My stance is this. Until you prove to me that you can break the cycle, I'm not awarding you any benefit of the doubt. All right? You want to talk about teams that proved something in the last few years? Florida State proved that it can make itself relevant in the national landscape again. All right? Now, yes, they're not having a great season this year, but they proved that they are capable of getting back to that point. All right? What they have yet to prove is that they're capable of convincing the committee they're worthy for a shot. Let's see. Other teams that proved. Tennessee proved that it can reach heights where it can contend with the big boys again by beating Bama with a far more talented team than they currently possess right now. Okay? Missouri proved that it can win 11 games in a single season. Ole Miss proved that it can win 11 games in a single season. We've already known things like that about Oregon and about Notre Dame. The question is can they get past that? I'm here to tell you, I do not care if Notre Dame is able to run through another mediocre schedule en route to a 10-plus win season, potentially deserved of a spot in the playoff, just to get boat raced by some school with a little sticker that says SEC on the back of it. I'm not concerned with Oregon looking like a juggernaut 8 out of 12 games of the season, playing 2 close ones, and then losing a 3-possession lead game to Stanford at home, because they always end up doing something like that. I'm waiting for them to not do something like that. And before you say last year was that year, you find me the number of people that were standing up in support of this W in the national news media that didn't think Oregon was going to run through us both games. Especially in the Pac-12 championship, because all we got to hear was how many close games we had played and how great Oregon looked, and people were betting them to cover and smother us in our sleep. And if there was a betting line in Oregon's favor, people were hammering it. People were hammering it all the way, not to the bank, sadly. Hate to break it to you, but no, it's just they continuously do this. And yet, year after year, people, just like the old VHS machine where you just put it in there and it would rewound it back to the start so you could throw it back in the player and watch The Land Before Time on repeat to your heart's content. People do that with these takes and these narratives about these programs year in and year out. And the one thing that also never changes along with that is that they consistently disappoint. These conversations will drive me crazy. In short, Oregon, get your shit together, please. Just please. I'm so tired of having to constantly hear about how great you're going to be. Utah and Baylor missed my prediction on this one, largely due to the fact that as soon as Cam Rising went out with that hand injury, did anybody else notice this weird thing happened where Utah's offense just forgot how to score points? That's concerning if I'm a Utah fan because Cam Rising, durable though he may be, might get injured. I don't know why I say this. I don't know why this is something that I would be concerned about. I just have a hunch. I just have a hunch that maybe, just maybe, there's a chance he doesn't finish the entire season. And if that ends up being the case, as unlikely and unfortunate as it might be, if your offense looks the way that it did yesterday without him under center for the remainder of your schedule, things could be tough because Baylor will not be the most difficult game that you play for the remainder of your schedule. That's all I'll say about that. Otherwise, it looked pretty good. Miami splattered Florida A&M. USC splattered Utah State. Tennessee sent the NC State Wolfpack to the Shadow Realm. I predicted Tennessee to cover. I said they were going to win by at least 2 scores. I was off by a few. So, what do I say about that? Here we go. Yawning. I'm probably bored of just hearing people say nice things about Oregon and Notre Dame. Miami typically involved in there too, but this year it's a pretty good football team. So no hate, nothing to say about that. Watch they lose next week. God, that'd be poetic irony. What can I say? This basically went how I thought. I mean, we saw some instances early on in the game where NC State's defense was kind of given some looks that were making Nico a little bit uncomfortable, but they eventually just adapted, and he scored quite a few points for me. I don't want to brag or anything, but yeah, my guy, well, hang on. Box score is not updated. Isn't that fantastic? So 211 passing yards. Freaking where this doesn't. It does not have touchdowns. There we go. Yeah, so like I said, they were able to move the ball efficiently. You notice that their run game ended up kind of taking over, which, believe it or not, in a Josh Heupel offense, that is what they want to do. People think that they're running their air raid here, but that's a lot of orange in the scoring line. Tough. So I'm sure Dave Dorn and the Wolfpack are going to be able to rebound with their ACC schedule and do plenty of great things for the remainder of the season. But I wasn't buying the notion that game was going to be any way, shape, or form close yesterday, and I ended up being right. So it is what it is. Oh, was that a push off there by Jamison Williams, or what happened? Or did the defender hold? Sorry, I have the Rams and Lions game up right now. Penalties decline. Touchdown Detroit. Didn't I draft Jamison Williams? Stand by. I might be making some money. I did. Nice. All right, well. Cool. I am, in fact, winning some monies. I would be winning more if... Wait, what happened there? Oh, okay. Cool. Cool. Need Cooper Cup to step up. They're right. Anyway, moving on down the line, talk about some other games. Oklahoma looked bad against Houston. We definitely saw some moments where it looked like Jackson Arnold was every bit of the young signal caller that he is. Immensely talented, but to only put up 16 points on Houston. Granted, this is a Willie Fritz coached Houston. Willie Fritz, the former head coach at Tulane. I don't expect the kind of off-season turnaround to produce holding Oklahoma's offense to 16 points. Willie Fritz higher at Houston, but I don't know. The offensive line was a problem there. I'll just say that. Like, Oklahoma's offensive line needs to establish an identity, and they need to find a starting five that are going to stay healthy, number one, and be able to actually gel and protect long enough to let their playmakers on the outside actually get some shit done for their quarterback. We talked about OK State and Arkansas a lot last night. This was a crazy game. This is my game of the slate for 11 a.m. Might be my game of the week. I don't know. We'll see. I'll say this. I was listening to another podcast earlier today, and this summed it up perfectly. Arkansas lost this game. Oklahoma State did not win it, to be clear. Arkansas had this game in the bag and just kind of let it go. They allowed Oklahoma State to establish the passing game to the tune of an absurd figure by the end of the game, if I remember correctly. Yeah, here. So let's throw it up. Alan Bowman, 27 of 48, 326 yards and a touchdown, right? So dude ended up popping off, and if I remember correctly, yeah, it was all second half. Just Oklahoma State was nowhere to be found, right? And then they found quickly in the fourth quarter. So yeah, interesting game. I mean, it's a shame for Arkansas. I mean, I know that how do I say this? Sam Pittman is expected to be fired. Okay. Not like there's reports coming out after the game that he's going to get fired this week. I don't know anything about that. Like, I mean, maybe something's come up that I just haven't been looking at Hogs 247 or something like that, but I don't see that. I mean, yeah, some people talking about it here and there, maybe. But anyway, there's this thing in his contract where his buyout basically gets gashed after he like loses a certain number of games this year, and I hope for his sake he's aware of that, because if the expectation is that I'm losing this job this year, I'm going to try and win as many games as I can to protect my money. Because if Arkansas is waiting, how crazy would it be? Because if I go and pull up like the contract details and I find out the win total, I am like hammering the team total over potentially and betting, because okay, hang on. If Bobby Petrino understands that he's going to be the heir apparent if Sam Pittman gets fired, does Bobby Petrino A, have incentive to play bad to essentially sabotage Sam Pittman, or B, does Bobby Petrino play good to protect his position as well for the inevitable moment when Sam Pittman gets fired? Interesting thought process. Probably stay away from any props bets, given that. Cooper Kupp, nice completion, nice yards after catch. Love that. Love that. I need those. I need those. I need him to get in the end zone, and I need to stop yawning. Dude, I felt it coming. Oh, man. Pause. Yeah, we talked about Kansas State enough last night. I wasn't impressed with the offense. That offense in the first half looked like freaking just deep fried dog water. Cooper Kupp, another completion. Let's go, dude. Keep going. Yeah, deep fried dog water from Kansas State's offense in the first half. Avery Johnson not progressing like a passer. And even if he was, I have questions about what they have at receiver, because when DJ Giddens is leading the team in receptions and receiving yards as a running back, we got a problem. Got a problem that I don't know if Big 12 defenses are really going to be exposing, but the thing is like trying to stay relevant. Like, I think a lot of people look at the 12-team playoff format and they're like, man, if I'm like a Big 12, title contender, I feel pretty good about that, because that means that I've got a pretty good chance of making it into the playoff. And then it's like, then to what end? To what end? If you're not playing big boy ball, if you're not playing seriously, then like you're just happy to get invited to the party, essentially. Like, what kind of way to live is that? You're going to the party to show out, dude, not get shown up. So, this next game, my dad, man, bless his heart, he made an S-tier dad joke about this game. So, I want to pull up the stats on this one because it's going to be funny. So, you see here, LSU 44, Nicholls 21 was the final score. At one point, early in the game, this was 14-16, and I mean, even then, it was staying close, like too close. Like the fact that we were deep into the second quarter and LSU still only has, look, touchdown, extra point, and they went, does they go for two? Did they get a safety? They had to have gotten a safety. Yeah, that's the only thing that explains that. It's just not showing up here. Would that be here? No. Box score. Defense. Where would that show up? It's got to be down here. Tackle for loss, Braden Swinson. Force fumble recovery, PJ Woodland. The other one was by PJ Woodland. Okay. Interesting that there's not a safety stat. Not that I can see. But it looks like they got a safety. But anyway, LSU ends up taking over. But I was texting my dad early on, and I was like, because I think right around the same time, it was 14-16 LSU. Bama was like 14-13 with USF. Auburn was getting ready to lose to Cal. Notre Dame had already lost. And I texted, I was like, what is going on right now? And my dad was like, Nicholls? Nicholls. What team's worse than Nicholls? Pennies, maybe? It's a great dad joke. It's a great dad joke. I don't care if you're not laughing right now. Do you even have a heart? It's tough sledding out here. I want to see how Nuss did. 27-37, 302 yards and 6 touchdowns. I don't think he was available for daily fantasy because they were playing Nicholls, and that's probably too easy a money to get. But it's good. That's good numbers. It's good numbers right there. But you're also playing Nicholls, so sorry if I'm not excessively wooed and impressed. I really kind of want to wrap this up. We'll just go kind of for the lightning round here at this point. Arizona did not look great against Arizona or Northern Arizona early on. Ted McMillan was barely a factor at all in the game stat wise. I don't know if he got injured or not. I have to go back and watch. The Cy-Hawk Trophy, Iowa State and Iowa. Red alert. This is breaking news here on the Lucid Podcast / YouTube channel. Iowa's offense is still bad. Vanderzee can be a good prospect at quarterback or at wide receiver for them, but at quarterback, it's still Cade McNamara, and I'm not impressed. I'm sorry. You had a good game last week against a nothing burger team. Iowa State came up to Kinnick, and you guys should have won this game. You had every ability to win this game, and then your offense couldn't stay on the field. Your defense got tired and eventually broke. They've been playing with a bend not break style for so long, they broke. Congratulations to the Cyclones. Talking about a game in this slate that I am so glad went the way that it did. Not that I'm biased towards either team. I had the read on this game. I said it in my week 2 preview video. Illinois takes down the 19th ranked Kansas Jayhawks in Champaign. Illinois looked good, man. They looked pretty good. Not like Big Ten championship good. It's just that progression that people were expecting to see last year. I think we're getting it this year. I think this team is relevant again. And again, I'm not saying Big Ten title contention, national, championship contender, playoff contender, none of that. No, they're not there yet. But this is like an 8 or 9 win football team again, if they continue to play the way that they're playing. And for Illinois, that's really good. That is really good. And should absolutely be something that they're happy about up there in Champaign. So good on you guys for making me look smart. I had the read on that game. Thought Illinois was going to do good things. I want to see what Fagan actually did now that I bring it up. I'm not going to bring it up, but Caden Fagan, not great. 16 attempts, 40 yards, 1 touchdown. But the real story was Luke Altmaier, very efficient with the ball, 192 yards, no touchdowns, but they literally did just enough to win. Let's see what their scoring breakdown looked like. I remember watching this game. Yeah, that's what it was. It was the fourth quarter just dominated by Illinois. Kansas comes out after halftime, kind of takes over the third, and stalls out Illinois' offense. And then Illinois just pulled the reverse card on them in the fourth quarter and said, okay, we can do that too. We could just do it a little bit better than you. And they did it better to the tune of kicking a field goal to extend their lead to 23-17. With 58 seconds to go. Good job to the Illini. Yeah, I need to wrap this up. I am getting super tired. Let's see. So yeah, we've by the way, Clemson, bravo, way to respond to an absolute beatdown in week 1 against Georgia by sending App State to the woodshed. Damn, yeah. I want to say Phil Maffa had something like a shit ton of rushing yards. 10 for 118, 1 touchdown. The real stat line was Cade Klubnik. 24 of 26 for 378 yards and 5 touchdowns. Either he heard all the criticism from last week and decided to do something about it, or App State's defense is really bad. I didn't watch the game. I'm not entirely sure, but yikes. That was a quarterback that I have never been really impressed by, putting up some pretty impressive numbers. So good job, Cade. Pitt Pitt Cincinnati was a fun game, man. I drafted Eli Holstein in my daily fantasy because he was putting up video game numbers in week 1, and I wasn't really high on Cincy. And Cincy came out and was punching him in the mouth earlier in this game. I had this up on the screen, and I just remember kind of watching it, and I was getting frustrated because, of course, like I have some skin in the game, and I'm wanting Holstein to be productive. Ended up pulling through and setting up some good numbers for me, but man, dude, Cincinnati was not hearing it. They were just like, yeah, no, that's fine. We're gonna win this game. Like we're gonna win this game, and they almost did. It came down to the wire. So, good for Pitt for being able to grit it out. But that means like we're seeing a lot of these close games earlier on in the weeks against competition that wasn't really supposed to be that tough, and that seems to be a prevailing narrative for most teams. A team that it's not a prevailing narrative for is Memphis. Memphis handling Troy quite easily. They might be your new Group of 5 front runner, if not Boise State. So we'll see. I'm smacking myself the next time that I yawn. I kind of briefly touched on this one before, but Cal goes to Jordan-Hare Stadium and beats Auburn. Now, in my week 2 preview video, I got this game dead wrong. I thought that Cal's game plan was essentially going to use sound defense and rely on Jaden Ott to be a workhorse for them at running back and just run into what I assumed was going to be a wood chipper defensive front for Auburn, because they seem to just be disciplined on the defensive line enough to handle easy teams like this. I know what happened last year. Don't remind me about New Mexico State. Sorry. But no, Cal throws for 233 yards and 2 touchdowns. Promises. And then Jaden Ott doesn't even actually lead the team in rushing. In fact, he only logs 11 yards. Javion Thomas, 8 carries, 53 yards, and 1 touchdown. I wonder, did Jaden Ott get hurt? I swear I saw him in the 4th quarter in the backfield. So he injured his ankle at UC Davis in week 1. They were probably limiting his carries. Okay. That makes more sense. Not the end of the world. Be all right. But hey, dude, good job for Cal for proving me wrong here, because they didn't do what I thought they were going to do, but they did enough. And then also, like, looking at Auburn, it's not like they were much worse. Like, Cal only ran for 99 yards. Auburn was at least able to put up 121, but they only threw for 165, and Peyton Thorne threw 4 interceptions. Gosh darn, 4 interceptions. Dude, isn't this guy supposed to be like a 6th-year senior? Like, what in God's green earth business do you have throwing 4 interceptions at this stage in your career? I hope you've majored in something well, because your future ain't on a football team when you leave Auburn. Young man, I got news for you. I'm sorry, but like, that's inexcusable. No NFL GM is going to look at that and be like, that's the kind of guy we need on Sundays. Get out of town, dude. Sparty, we talked about it last night. Sparty gets their first Big Ten conference win with Jonathan Smith at the helm. Love to see it. I wish it didn't have to come against Maryland. I don't really have anything personal against Maryland. I don't really like them, but like, it's just a team that I think has been living with Taulia Tagovailoa as a very, what's the word I'm looking for here? Tumultuous quarterback to have under center. He's great when he's great, and he is a gosh darn liability when he's not. But yeah, hey, good for Michigan State rebounding after the Mel Tucker fiasco last year. Boston College might be an absolute betting wagon right now, by the way. Took down Duquesne 56-0. Mind you, it's Duquesne. But yeah, 56-0. That is a waxing. I haven't heard enough about this yet. And maybe we should be hearing about this given who they're playing next week. But anybody else notice this? I'm gonna bring up the content here. There's a lot of games up here on the board, but did anybody happen to notice this guy right here? Now, that's a 2-possession win. Okay. But it's South Dakota. Wisconsin. You play the Alabama Crimson Tide next week. I hate to break it to you. But what are you doing? And this is what I wanted to check. Okay. I feel better about this now. Because what this looks like is a very lackluster offensive outing in the first half, but dominant defensively. And then they kind of just took their foot off the gas and they started creeping back into this game. And so Wisconsin decided to try again and kept it out of reach. That's still concerning, though, the fact that a team like South Dakota was even capable of doing that to you. I mean, come on, like box score can't be great. I mean, you ran for 171. Okay, cool. Tyler Van Dyke didn't throw a billion interceptions, so all right, we'll see. We'll see if that's the recipe for success against Bama coming up to your crib next week. Glad I took a look at that one because the score doesn't necessarily tell the whole story, but the whole story still ain't that pretty. Yeah, interesting. James Madison only won 13-6 to Gardner Webb. Feels tough, man. Feels tough. UCF absolutely bashes Sam Houston's brains in. Arkansas State gets the win over Tulsa. I already talked about Florida Samford. I knew I was missing a game. I literally was thinking about this coming in here. I have 2 more games I want to touch on, and we're going to lead with the one that's less provocative in terms of the overall discourse that we're going to be having. Washington State looks pretty good on offense. We play them next week. It's legitimately our first true test. They're coming to Lumen Field in Seattle, which is a bit annoying that the Apple Cup can't just be played in home-and-home situations like it normally is. But, yeah, their offense is doing some pretty great things. I mean, Mateer, I want to say, yes, I've got it up right now. Let's see. 323 yards. And, oh, wait, no, that's Texas Tech. Sorry. This has got to be flipped, right? Oh, no. Their quarterback ran for 197 yards. Oh. This changes how I feel about this. A little bit. Because You have to play complementary football to beat sound defenses. Okay. Texas Tech, we knew, didn't have a sound defense coming into this week. They gave up 41 points to Abilene Christian last week. But they were able to throw for 343 and rush for 343 and rush for 148 against Washington State's defense. But apparently Texas Tech has zero run defense. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Washington's run defense is great. It's phenomenal, right? Or anything like that. But it's better than 301 on the ground in a single game. And if these are the kind of numbers that you're putting up through the air, like, okay, can you be better than that? I hope so. But our secondary is actually pretty good. Secondary is actually probably the strength of the defense right now. So good luck. Wow. Leaning that heavily on your quarterback in the run game. What was week 1 like, I wonder? That's interesting, man. That is interesting. Let's go back here. Let's go to week 1. I know they played on Saturday with everybody else, so I just gotta find it. They scored 70 on Portland. So he didn't he 2 attempts for 55 yards and a touchdown, but then he throws for 352 and 5 touchdowns in that one. So they seem pretty multiple, I guess. But even then, they gave up a total of 449 yards to Portland State. We might have a track meet next Saturday at Lumen Field. Wow, I would not have guessed that. I'm not going to dwell on Wazoo too much, and because if I do, I'm just going to make it more of a conversation about, the matchup next week, and that's not what we're really here to discuss. When I'm done here talking about this last game, I am going to kind of peek forward at next week and point out some matchups that I think will be talking points for the week 3 preview video that'll drop later this week. And then I think Wednesday, I'm going to do a reaction to the AP poll video. I think that's going to be the content schedule, by the way. I don't know if the immediate reaction is going to be something that makes it to YouTube, just because I wasn't able to publish it before making this video. So we'll see. I might just throw it up there for shits and gigs. But I think in the future, the idea is to do the preview, the immediate reaction live Saturday nights, do an actual full-fledged week 2 review on Sunday, or the weekly review on Sundays. And then, well, if it's Sunday, then we'll do an AP poll reaction video Monday and then call it good. So yeah, that'll work. We'll do that. That will work. Okay. The last game that I want to talk about from yesterday is the one that everybody's probably wanting to talk about. I know there's quite a few people talking about it online right now. And that's the Fighting Deons of Colorado getting absolutely worked by the Nebraska Cornhuskers in Lincoln. I said during my week 1 preview video that there were things that I didn't want to delve into any further. I'm going to do some delving right now. And I'm going to try my best to not be too, you know what? This team ain't it, man. I know Bud Elliott from the Cover 3 podcast and 247 Sports said it in their podcast today. The book on Colorado's out. I think a lot of people have had a read on this team for a long time, and what we saw last night was basically what the preview video suggested. Nebraska did not respect your ability to run the ball. You ran for a grand total of 16 yards. 16 yards. It would have been more if Shedeur hadn't tried to run the ball because he accounted for negative 30 yards on the ground himself. So maybe just stick to being a pocket passer. I don't know. Or getting rid of the ball so you don't take sacks and you don't have to lead the pocket and scramble. But I guess if you don't really have the ability to do that effectively these days, good luck at, having a future in the NFL. I heard a really loud noise from outside. I'm going to go check on that real quick. Be right back. My wife dropped a cup. So anyway, our grand total is 16 yards rushing. Through 23 of 38 for 244 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Red zone scoring. Travis Hunter can't be your only solution. That's not going to be a recipe for long-term success. I regret to inform you. Your defense gave up. Hang on. Let's bring it on over here. Your defense gave up a total of 334 yards. But you want to know what I really, really enjoyed about Nebraska's system or scheme for this game, rather? The simplicity. It was, hey, we don't have to sell out for shit because we know you can't do anything about what we're going to do to you. That was the story of this game. They dared Colorado to run. They wouldn't do it. They only had 22 rushing attempts in the entire game. Meanwhile, 40 passing attempts. In terms of possessions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 12. 13 possessions, if my math is correct here. You had 13 possessions, and you scored on 4 of them. Sorry. 3. 2, 3. Wow. What is that? That's got to be oh. That's a typo. So you had 2 scoring possessions on 13. Yeah, for the record, this one up here, this is listed as Colorado, but it was a pick 6 for Nebraska. So enough bagging on Colorado. I just look, man, I could continue to be mean and say further provocative things, insulting a man and his family and all the things that other commentators like to do and allude to, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about the team. I'm going to talk about the football. It's not great. It's not great. Your scheme sucks. You seem to be overly relying on certain players that aren't giving you the best opportunity to succeed. I'll just leave it at that. Dylan Raiola looked really good. Super glad for him. The the clout chasing with like the Mahomes impersonation or whatever we're gonna call it, cosplay that he's doing every weekend is kind of weird. But hey, like if it's winning Nebraska football games, who am I to judge? Yeah, that covers my week 3 recap. I want to wrap it up pretty quick here and kind of give like a sneak peek of what week 3 is looking like. So Friday we have a couple games, both Big 12 in nature. Arizona versus Kansas State. I will be tuning in for that one. We have Kansas hosting UNLV. Then I didn't talk about this game earlier, but Georgia is going to be going to Kentucky. Kentucky just lost to South Carolina with one of the worst quarterback performances I have ever seen in my 32 years of life. Yeah, we already talked about Alabama going to Wisconsin. Notre Dame goes to Purdue. Oregon and Oregon State in the Civil War. And yes, I will call it that. Okay, you can't force me to change the names of rivalry games. You just can't do it. But yeah, Oregon and Oregon State fighting. That game infinitely more exciting now because Oregon State's been looking really good and has a really good run game, and Oregon has been Oregon so far. So Wake Forest, their defense sucks, but their offense scored some points. So we'll see what they do with Ole Miss next week. Boston College versus Missouri is now a top 25 matchup in the non-conference. So that'll be interesting. Tulane going to Norman to play Oklahoma. We saw how good Tulane looked against Kansas State. Does that translate across, multiple weeks? Don't know. We'll see. LSU on the road playing South Carolina. Let's go hunting for some good games. We already talked about the Apple Cup. West Virginia playing Pittsburgh. Washington State versus Washington, like I just said. Man, this 6 p.m. slate is kind of dry. Colorado State. That could be interesting. Okay, 6:30. This should heat up, right? It's got to be. Oh, UCF TCU could be a fun game. Keep your eye on that one. There might be some daily fantasy picks in there. RJ Harvey and whatnot. Maryland looking to rebound by going up against Virginia, who had a really good offensive showing this past week. BYU, I have good news. You might be able to bounce back from the devastating loss to SMU because they did lose to SMU, if I'm not mistaken. Like a middleman. Big 12, where did it go? Oh my God. BYU is 2-0. Okay, yep, they're right. Wait, no, that means BYU beat SMU. I know what I'm doing. I swear. Okay, so BYU, good news. You get to go play Wyoming, who has looked atrocious. San Diego State at Cal. San Diego State got absolutely dog walked by Oregon State. So good thing is that a team that can typically be difficult doesn't appear to be so. And you get to rebound from going on the road to Jordan-Hare and beating Auburn by hosting a San Diego State team that might be just kind of free for the choosing or free for the picking. Is this really week 3? There's got to be a lot of teams with just bye weeks. So the early slate looking really top heavy. Oh, the Georgia-Kentucky game is a 6:30 game. And then Texas UTSA is a later game. I wasn't paying attention to that. Okay, so the top 25 games are ranked like, gotcha. Okay. I'll just have to be mindful of that in the future when I'm looking at this. Texas A&M versus Florida could be fun. New dog bowl potential candidate there. Ooh. Interesting game on Thursday. All right. I'm going to do my weekly preview. I guess I'm doing it Thursday now because of this. I think that as we go on and like Tuesday Maction and stuff like that starts kicking off, I might have to start throwing in those game previews if I feel so inclined in this video or the the AP poll reaction videos. That said, Arizona State going on the road to play Texas State. Both teams looking pretty good right now. I'm not saying Arizona State like good as in college football playoff contender good. I'm just saying like for the hoped for, or rather expected improvement under Kenny Dillingham, they look decent. And Texas State is getting some gas to potentially be the representative from the group of 5 in the playoff. So other people's words, not mine. I just think it's going to be a good game to keep an eye on. So if it ends up being one, just don't forget, I may not have heard it from me first, but you heard it from me first. Sweet. Hey, super glad I was able to tough it out through this. I was like yawning nonstop, had like the long break to put the kids to bed. I'm going to cut this up, get it uploaded to the YouTube channel ASAP by the end of the night. And keep watching this LA Detroit game that is making me some money right now. So super stoked about that. I need them to put Montgomery back in at running back. Not that I have anything personal against Jahmyr Gibbs. It's just I didn't draft him in daily fantasy because he was too expensive. But anyway, guys, hey, this has been super fun. I'm going to absolutely keep doing this. And like I said, I kind of trotted out my expected schedule moving forward. So there should be another video getting posted tomorrow at some point. And I hope that having the stats and everything gets better. Like I said, I'm going to try and find a slightly better version that's somewhat easier to navigate, doesn't have so many ads and stuff like that up there, and also doesn't flip total offense between teams. So yeah, that's the plan moving forward. Any views this gets, I greatly appreciate it. This is just the beginning of something that like I'm super invested in and that I want to kind of grow and tend to, and hopefully make it into something big down the line. But really, it's accomplishing everything that I want from it right now, and then it's just kind of giving me an outlet and a platform to really discuss this game that I love so much and that I spend a truly unhealthy amount of time analyzing, breaking down, watching this, that, and the other. So I will catch you guys next time. Peace.